Roadshow, episode number 315. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me. We are, as usual, at the absolutely beautiful Casa de Cold Coffee on a lovely Thursday afternoon here. Sun shining down here in Las Vegas. Can't beat April for good weather here in Las Vegas.
86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Frosty beverages are open thanks to the kindness of Zachary Humphrey and Thomas Dunscombe. Got a little bit of whiskey over there as well.
I like it. Yeah, and we got a little whiskey in the coffee. I had made some coffee and I felt like an asshole if I didn't. I have a problem sometimes when, I never finish a pot unless I've just really focused on it. So today I had one good solid cup before you got here. I refilled, and then we started pulling out the beers, and then had to add a little whiskey. That was your suggestion.
Make it a little Irish coffee.
That's it.
I bet you'd get through more pots of coffee if you went Irish on it. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't remember if I did or not. I'd be like, I think I drank the coffee, but yeah, no, it's delicious. It's tasty because some days, I have to be in a mood, I think, sometimes to do a day drinking, which is what we're doing. This is a little bit early than normal in the day, so the sun's a little higher.
Earlier in the day.
Sun's a little higher in the sky. It's actually a little bit warmer, but the breeze is going. It's absolutely beautiful. But I'm kind of double fisting. I got the world's award-winning red, white, and blue Pabst Blue Ribbon pounders that we had. I forget why I picked these. I think they were on sale at the store. That's why I got these ones.
That's right, Zachary Humphrey, Thomas Dunscombe. We stretch your money. We buy what's on sale. You see what I'm saying? When you sponsor the MMA Roadshow, don't think we're just going to go out and waste your money.
No. We don't buy that highfalutin
We're
stuff.
still looking for sales.
If you want, we could splurge on some of the lychee.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. That was when I realized we had to reach out to the public and say, listen, we are in a desperate situation here, folks.
And I appreciate that Thomas didn't ream us for mispronouncing his name. He said we got it right, I think, the first time, but I think we said 3 or 4 different pronunciations, so I can't remember how we actually said it, but I think you're right, Dunscombe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to both those guys. I appreciate you. All right, listen, so we're going to get into some MMA, of course, but first, a little bit of personal news, if you will. Now, we have never missed a single week from the time we started this podcast. It was important to me to say, hey, consistent delivery every week. You're going to get into that program.
And that's how he says it.
Every stick with it.
And that's how he says it every time. He's like, guys, consistent delivery.
No, listen, I wanted to make sure that we always had it every single week. And, man, we have delivered on that. So, check this out. Episode 315. So 315 consecutive weeks. Now, that's kind of cool to me. It's a number that sticks in my head. Not that it's a number you hear a whole lot, 315, but my birthday is March 15th, right? So 315. So when I see that combination of numbers together, it kind of has some special significance to me. So episode number 315 has a little bit of special significance to me, right? But here's what gets really cool. Episode 1, April 5th, 2015. It's now April 8th. 2021 as we sit down to record this. So essentially we are on the 6-year anniversary of the MMA Roadshow.
That is some consistent delivery. I would like to, that reminds me of, remember how we were sitting outside? That was
Delray Beach, Florida. I actually pulled up the description of episode number 1. We were sitting outside at an Airbnb.
Did you describe how we got the fuck shit eaten out of our legs?
That did not mention in there. Yeah, we were
I will never forget that day.
Outside of an Airbnb in Delray Beach, Florida. We had been to visit the Black Zillions. We had been to visit American Top Team. This was right before the Ultimate Fighter 21 launched. That would mark, the UFC debut of Kamaru Usman. We sat outside, had some frosty beverages, went
later into the evening, and didn't even realize by the end of the night that we had been getting chewed up by the mosquitoes.
and just I don't know that my legs 6 years later have recovered from the chewing that we had of mosquitoes.
The worst thing ever. I remember I felt like I was like, am I going to be scarred from this because my legs are so torn up? I thought I literally was going to have scar marks because it was so bad.
They were itching. So
it just showed how fucked up we got, I guess, because we didn't know.
We didn't notice, by the way. Your legs are numb right now. You're not feeling the mosquitoes. But I'll tell you what, actually that works out good. It's a great throwback because in 6 years we haven't missed a single episode. I don't think I've missed a single episode. You've been on the not on the road sometimes. So I literally have done this every Thursday for 6 years. Today was one of the times I almost missed, man. I am feeling so under the weather. It is it is ridiculous. So that kind of maybe it makes sense that it's the 6-year anniversary because oh, there's a little sniffle you hear. So I thought maybe I was getting some allergies like earlier this week, and maybe it is still allergies. I don't know, but man, my eye is like swollen and watering so much that I can't even like keep. So every now and then I'm having to close my left eye just because it's burning so bad and watering. And I've been sneezing a lot lately, and so if you happen to get a sneeze in here, I apologize. I will definitely move the mic out of the way.
That's the COVID.
Well,
it's the new COVID strain.
We tested on Tuesday, and I tested clean, and I do have the vaccine, so I think I'm okay. But I got the sniffles. I got some cough and sneeze, and my eyes are swollen and burning so bad that I have to close them
Is
sometimes.
your family sick?
No, just me.
You think it's a CFFC trip? When else?
Not.
Like, I wonder why you would be sick and your family hasn't. Like, why the heck would it hit you? That'd be the only variable. I think
is true.
Is the airplane ride and CFFC trip has to be.
Or, I mean, maybe just because I had the change of weather and everything, or
so did
something.
everybody else. No. I mean, going to wherever you went.
Yeah.
Why was it cold there?
No, it was about the same as this. But they just have a whole lot of different kind of trees and
well, that could be it. You know, the different pollens and stuff. But plus,
pollens,
I mean, like,
pollens.
If it wasn't for like last week, like taking the week off, I was burning the F out, like just tired wise. So I mean, your body can become more susceptible if you are a little bit tired. And that UFC run we've been on has been
every week.
Was nuts.
Every week. And I took a week off and went to CFFC. Well, so that's why I've got the medicine.
Having whiskey.
That's why award-winning Pabst Blue Ribbon going to be consumed in moderate to excessive quantities today, and I'm going to try to get some sleep. We got weigh-ins early tomorrow. We'll get to all that. By the way, I did want to say, for anybody that didn't check out last week's CFFC events, definitely check them out on UFC Fight Pass. I always tell you that. And, of course, it's a shameless plug because I'm trying to promote something I'm a part of. But I really am proud of the team over there and the people that we work with. And I think they really do a great job. But if you didn't see this past week's 2-pack of events on UFC Fight Pass, check it out. Some great fights top to bottom. Paul Capaldo hit a spinning wheel kick at CFFC 95 that I think ended up doing like 1 million views or something on UFC Fight Passes just on their Twitter account alone. So that was, I mean, it's one of the best spinning wheel kicks you'll ever seen. Paul Capaldo, a kid that we've been high on for a long time at CFFC, is undefeated and looks to, has wanted to be in the UFC since he was like 10 years old. So, I mean, the kid's been working for it his whole life. So, some great ones. But the viral moment of the weekend, Hetag Pliev had his finger removed from his hand in the middle of the fight. I mean, it ended up being one of the biggest viral moments of the week in all of mixed martial arts, and it was one of the craziest things I've ever been a part of. It was at CFFC 94, and it was the co-main event. And as far as I know, I don't think they went and edited anything out. I think they left the whole thing in. But it's the weirdest thing because, we don't have all the information. Myself and CM Punk are trying to call this as we see it, and the man's finger is gone. This dude, if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. And I mean, I guess spoiler alert or whatever. It's crazy. So what ends up happening is, and Brad Bolton, who works at CFFC, made an amazing explainer video showing everything. He worked in a couple alternate angles and did some frame by frame stuff. But ultimately, the UFC was like, hey man, don't show this video. We're trying to get people to watch it on Fight Pass. So it's like, damn. So he broke it down frame by frame. So what happens is Hetag blocks a kick early in round 2, and it breaks his finger, basically. Breaks or dislocates it. Whatever. There's definitely damage to it. You can actually see him kind of look down at it once he blocks it, so you know something's wrong with it. But then subsequently they get into a grappling exchange, and his opponent, Devin Goodale, is tugging on the glove bad. He's reaching under and tugging on the glove on the same hand. And Punk and I were calling it out, saying hey, that's illegal. You can't do that. What are you doing? What we didn't know is that he had pulled on that glove so much that he had pulled it actually over that finger, and the left ring finger bent back into the glove. So it bends all the way backwards. Think about that. Gets trapped in the glove and bends all the way backwards, snaps off at the joint. And so it's essentially folded over itself, and you can see the bone sticking out. Now, we can't tell that it's folded over itself because all we can see is the bone sticking out. But this dude is so tough. He walks back at the end of the round and goes to the cut man and was just like shows in the hand and is like, can you fix this? Like, we got to go. We got to get to round 3. And the cut man's like, no, we can't fix that. So inside the cage, they can see that it's bent back and it's in the glove. And so they're like, dude, we got to get you out of here. We got to get you to a hospital. Ugh. Let's leave it where it is, because essentially the glove was kind of acting as a tourniquet and keeping everything in place. And that's why they were able to sew it back on and reattach it and all that. But as we're watching from the outside, I mean, we can see the camera angles, but we're not privy to that conversation that's happening. And so I'm trying to describe what I'm seeing, and all I can say is I'm like, is it gone? I mean, it looks like it's gone, you know? And it is a funny thing. So part of the lore of the story, and I guess, I don't know, kind of peeling back the curtain here, I don't know if it's better to say anything about this or not, but, you know, part of the stories, as it was retold online, was that a PA announcer came out and said, hey folks, can we have you as fans help us look for the finger? You know, we can't find it. That was actually just Punk on the broadcast being kind of silly, you know, trying to keep the mood light. He was just saying, check under your chairs, ladies and gentlemen. But that's not really going out to the audience. It's just going out to the UFC Fight Pass audience. But in some of the retellings that I read online, people were saying that a PA announcer came out and said, hey, can you please help us find the finger? That's not actually fact, but it's a pretty good, you know, tall tale, I guess, a little detail to the story that doesn't actually belong. But anyway, fortunately, Hetag, the finger was reattached. I've seen the video of when they take the glove off. It's absolutely freaking crazy. It's like his finger just pops out from behind the glove, you know. And they reattach it. I think he has some ligament damage that, you know, they reattach. Yeah, some minor ligament damage that they reattach it, and he's going to have some physical therapy for it, and they'll follow up on that. But dude, he actually called the next day, and I heard some voice messages that he left for the CFFC staff, and he was basically like apologizing that he wasn't able to finish the fight and saying that he'd put on a better show next time. It's like, bro, like, you're good, man. You're good. So, toughest dude I've ever seen. By the way, his team did appeal the result, and I think they've got a great case. So he was actually declared the loser of that fight. TKO injury, round 2, 5 minutes, I should say, because he can't continue, right? So Devin Goodell is awarded the TKO victory, but, you know, the film clearly shows that it was him yanking on the glove and pulling it over the finger that caused that issue. So I think we may hear back as soon as this week, maybe next week. I think at a minimum it's a no contest and maybe even a disqualification. I mean, it was caused by the opponent.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, every time you retell that story, I literally get squeamish in my stomach. If we never talk about that injury again, I will be good, because I cannot forget those mental images. Definitely not safe for work. Should you want to watch that fight while you're at work, wait till you get home and scare your children and your loved ones with that one. But yeah, crazy toughness. But I mean, on the flip side, man, I guess kudos to the tenacity and evilness of his opponent to see the opportunity to put his opponent away with that injury.
Well, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he definitely did.
If he was clearly grabbing the hand and pulling down, like if he saw it and knew that that's what he needed to do to disable his opponent's hand, that's some like legit.
That's like serial killer stuff.
Or just legit, like, if a lot of these guys go in there with the mentality of it's me versus you, it's a battle for life or death. I mean, should you be out in the street and you see an injury like that against somebody that's fighting you, everything goes.
Oh, if it's on the street, yeah.
Everything goes.
Now just pull the glove over it. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a weird thing. I mean,
I wish I could forget the image in my head, because it's literally morbid.
It is weird. So, you know, calling it live, you can imagine, like, now again, it turns out that it was in the glove, but in my head, I was fully convinced that it was just detached, that it somehow becomes severed. And so part of me is like trying to look around and find this thing, but it's so weird because you're on a live broadcast. I realize, you know, we're not on ESPN or whatever, but still, like, I'm trying to have some semblance of professionalism as I'm describing what's happening.
Holy fucking shit! Yeah. Where's the finger? Holy fucking shit! Did y'all see that? Where's the finger?
So I'm trying to do it the right way, and I went back and listened to it. And overall, I feel like we did a decent job with it, man. I feel like we called out the foul as it was happening, and B, I think we handled it pretty professionally. But it was bizarre, and I was fully expecting. I think that would have been the weird part, and maybe the part that I would have started to lose it a little bit, as if like somebody came running in with the finger or something like that. Like what if it was like somehow outside the cage? You know what I mean? Like that would have been.
It's crazy because we've seen those like big shots on the head, and you see the mouthpiece flying, and you can clearly see it. How bad would it have been, like if all of a sudden you see something flying? You're like, I don't think that was a mouthpiece. What
Did his
was that?
finger just fly
Did
across?
his finger just fly?
Yeah.
First time, if I was on the headset, I'd be like, there might have been a serious risk that I could have barfed.
Oh, that would have been embarrassing.
Mid-broadcast. But.
That would have been embarrassing. So, yeah, one of the most bizarre scenes I've ever witnessed, not just as an announcer, but literally in all of my time covering mixed martial arts. So if you haven't checked it out, check out. That's at CFFC 94. There were a lot of other great fights both nights, but if you want to see one of the most bizarre things that you've ever seen, check out CFFC 94. So back to work with them in late May. I think we're going to go again Memorial Day weekend. So always a good time working with the crew out there. Speaking of disqualifications and TKOs and all that, how about the debut last night? Of course, we sit down to record this on Thursdays as always. You might be listening to it on Friday when we typically release. But Wednesday night in the United States, anyway, prime time television. For those of us here in North America, for the first time, ONE on TNT One. It's a big month for ONE Championships. Now, they're still doing the fights over in Singapore, but they're doing them kind of in the morning time so that they can go out live to a U.S. audience in prime time, and to a North American audience, I should say, but TNT here in the United States. And the very first fight, their debut on TNT, this big prime time moment, Eddie Alvarez is disqualified in 62 seconds. So they're building up to this big fight. Yuri Lapicus and Eddie Alvarez, big fight. Yuri Lapicus, obviously a former title challenger. Tough matchup. No easy fight for Eddie Alvarez. But Eddie Alvarez takes him down, gets the leg right in place, starts punching away, and Yuri Lapicus, who's kind of in a seated position, turns his head to the side. So that basically he's facing the fence, and the left side of his head is pressed against Eddie Alvarez. And so Eddie Alvarez throws a couple punches kind of to the back of the head, kind of to the side of the head. I guess it's all a little bit debatable. Does get a verbal warning. And from the referee, does say, watch the back of the head. Lapicus kind of leans back, and then Alvarez hits him with a couple of big hammer fists. Referee steps in, a little bit of confusion. Alvarez says, hey, man, those were definitely legal. Eventually, referee says, no, they weren't. Gives him a red card. He's disqualified. We go back and watch the replay, and so it's interesting. Like, I've always said, anytime somebody goes, oh, that guy was faking or that guy was this, like, bro, look at these guys. Look how tough they are. Look at what they do for a living. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going out there and faking what's happening to them. But I didn't think the blows seemed that severe. Like, the punches that Eddie landed, I mean, you got to think he was in a kneeling position already. He's got the leg right in place. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's getting his full body weight into him. And I understand it's a very, very sensitive area. And then, of course, he landed the hammer fist after. Now, the hammer fist might have been where the damage was. I don't know, because the hammer fists were much more forceful. They were like full impact down. But either way, fight's waved off. Eddie Alvarez protested, but as he's talking on the microphone afterwards, something happens off camera where he sees Lapicus, and he mentions the fact that he's being carried out on a stretcher, and Alvarez gets emotional, like he's like kind of battling back tears a little bit. And then we've since seen video of the aftermath where he's really, I mean, you can see how distraught he is, how devastated he is afterwards, which kind of frustrates me a little bit because the production never showed any of that. And I don't know if that was a decision of theirs to not show it, which I understand. ONE is very protective of the traditional martial arts brand and the respect. They're all about the respect of the traditional martial arts, and maybe they felt it was a little too gratuitous to show the guy being carried off on a stretcher. But I feel like we missed something because Eddie looked very, very concerned, and I didn't think the punches looked that concerning. So that's one aspect of it is, was Lapicus okay? Because Alvarez kept mentioning, even after the fact, his biggest concern was just to make sure that Lapicus was okay, that he has to go home to a family, and Alvarez was like, I have to go home to my 4 kids and wife, and they want me to come home safe, and I can't help but put myself in his position. And so that was an interesting aspect of it to see that I feel that we missed out on. So because of that, I don't feel like I can count, I guess discuss too much because I don't know what Eddie saw. But I guess what I can discuss is the disqualification itself. And I know you didn't watch this live, Coffee. I know you watched the replay, but I know you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those punches, and again, I guess we can't contend to the severity of them.
Yeah.
But that did not look like a disqualification to me.
No, there was one shot that right before the hammer fist, when his opponent goes down, that looked like it landed on the back of his head.
Right.
But up to that point, I wonder if the ref clearly wasn't sounding like he was complaining like over and over about the back of the head, and then you heard the chirping from the corner saying back of the head, which I think egged on the ref to get in there more. And then it seemed to me that it was played up and that he did one of these sort of like and leaned back, and then that's when he caught the hammer fist,
right.
And then he got the real damage done on him. And I could see why Eddie was frustrated at the end because the last thing he wants to be seen as is painted as like a dirty fighter.
Right.
When I thought he explained it great how he was trying to make sure that he was doing the right things to hit in the right area.
Yeah.
There was
he
a
even
shot.
said that he was trying to manipulate the head.
Right. He was moving his head to get it in a way that would force his head to have to be in a decent position to where he was hitting. And for most of the shots I saw, it looked like he was touching the ear. There was one shot.
There was one that looked like it was probably right to the base of the skull.
And like that should have been, that should have got the warning or whatever. But that was like the last shot that I saw. And
it didn't seem like a full wind up, right? Like, I mean, again, base of the skull, sensitive area.
Yeah, the way he was holding him, he would had to have been that punch had to already sort of completely wrap around his body and then get to the back of the head, like to try to generate any to try to generate any like serious force. It doesn't look like it would have been able to do.
It's a great
like
thing about it. You just said the face is right here against your own face.
Right.
How hard can you punch? And I get it. Eddie Alvarez is a jack dude that's been a professional fighter, so yes, he could probably generate a little bit more power than you and I can in that little space.
Right.
But it didn't seem like a Francis Ngannou uppercut.
Yeah, and it's not like he was like hitting a grounded opponent in the back of the head. He was grounded himself, and I don't know. It just seemed like there was a little bit of gamesmanship, but I can't say for sure. I mean,
maybe the gamesmanship turned into the hammer fist where he got hurt.
Yeah. Like I mean,
because I don't think he would allow himself to be stretchered out if he wasn't hurt.
Well, we've seen that. I think we've seen it before where guys have really played it up. Yeah, I mean, because if not, because then everybody's like, oh, he could have continued.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I feel bad that we didn't get to see any of that.
Yeah. I just feel that if the ref wasn't right there egging it on, stop, watch the back of the head, and then hearing what was going on, which built up the moment a lot more so, I think the opponent never would have never got that way. It just felt like he sold it up a little bit.
And surely, I mean, even the officials probably felt a little bit. I mean,
if they go back and watch
it's a big moment. Like the nerves. I'm sure, like the energy around that building. Like I'm sure everybody was on edge. Just their first time on. I mean, they've been building this moment for a long time, right? To be on, big time TV in the United States.
I'm sure he's went back and watched it after the fact. I mean, and I'll even go back and watch again. But I know in the few times I watched it earlier, I was like, okay, that looked legal. That was getting close to the back of the head, but it looked like it's still legal, still legal. Oh, okay, that one looked bad. But then that was the one where he then lays back and then takes the two strong shots to the head.
Yep.
So I don't know, but it was just I just felt like ultimately my first gut reaction was like, man, that was a soccer flop. When at first he had the whole face on it.
I was on a text conversation where the exact same phrasing phrasing was used. And I hate to say that as somebody. Like I said, I think maybe it was a little bit of a flop, but then got really hurt by the hammer fist.
He certainly got hit by the hammer fist, and I'm sure that the hit to the back of the head did hurt.
Right.
But to do the that face and that sort of like just whole reaction just didn't feel genuine when I first watched it. But maybe I'm biased because I really felt bad for Eddie because Eddie's not a dirty fighter.
No.
I've never seen him do anything that caused me to think anything that way, and I think that's ultimately why he partially why he was so upset about it, because he's not going in there to try to hurt somebody, but he does feel like that was ripped away from him. And I think he's got a good case for it.
I think he does too, and he said he wants to overturn. I don't think you could go so far as to give him a TKO win.
Yeah.
But I think you could at least turn it to a no contest.
No contest.
Right?
That's the best he can get out of it.
Yeah.
It was the best. I mean, if he can even get that, he should be grateful. I mean, to think of anything else, at this point, that's too big of a reversal,
Yeah.
I would think.
I think you go no contest and maybe run it back. Maybe run it back. So that's the way the night started. And then you go straight into the next fight, and Adriano Moraes scored a second-round knockout of Demetrius Johnson, the first ever time in Mighty Mouse's career that he's been finished. He had lost before, but had always gone to a decision. Here he gets knocked out. No controversy at all in the stoppage here. Interesting, and Demetrius talked about it afterwards. He said, look, I know Moraes always fights the same way. That is very passive, not looking to really engage. So I knew I had to be the one to engage, even though I'm going against a longer, taller, rangier dude. And eventually,
so much bigger.
He did look so much bigger.
So much bigger.
It does beg the conversation of these weight cutting principles that ONE is always talking about. They do the hydration tests and they don't do all that. Weight cutting we don't allow, but it just looked like they were in different weight categories, man. It really did. But Johnson comes in, gets clipped by two strong punches, falls to the ground, and then Moraes follows up with punches and a big knee to a grounded opponent. But that is legal in ONE. So I know a lot of people saw the clip and were like, whoa, that's an illegal knee, blah, 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 blah. No, perfectly legal. And a few more punches followed it, and that was that. And the massive upset for Adriano Moraes defends his flyweight title, and Demetrius Johnson kind of has to, I don't know if you say start over. I mean, he's still one of the greatest of all time, but hey, he'll inevitably lose his number one ranking. He was still hanging on to the number one ranking at MMA Junkie, USA Today Sports, so he'll inevitably lose that. And we'll see kind of where his career goes from here. He says he has 6 fights left over there. Maybe he'll try some kickboxing. Maybe he'll do some other stuff. But I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, I guess the thought that I instantly had, Cole Coffey, is was this a best case scenario for ONE Championship or a worst case scenario for ONE Championship? Because we always talk about bringing over these high profile athletes and bringing over these big time signings. There's two ways to play them, right? Either A, we take this great and now look, we have this great fighting for us, or we take this great, the guy that we already had beat him, and now we go show you that, hey, everybody on our roster is legit. You said that we had second-tier guys, and I always think that's interesting because, I don't know that this is actually going to make Moraes or Lapicus, household names that people want to tune in and watch again. So I don't know if it ends up being a good thing or a bad thing because, do you tune in next time that Moraes and Lapicus are on a card just because of these fights and their connection to these athletes, or do you not tune in just because it doesn't have the names that you recognize, which are Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez? So it's one of those things I'm split right down the middle on, man. I really do feel like there's positives and there's huge negatives as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you want to get your most bang out of your buck for using him, and that was it was a gamble in the sense that they knew that it certainly would have helped DJ's star rise even more, to get that belt.
To get that one title. And
and
take the picture with all the one Grand Prix belt, the one flyweight belt, the UFC belts.
Yeah, and then all the hot little girls off to the side. They have such attractive little girls up there. Now I'm distracted. But it just felt like it was going to happen eventually. I mean, while DJ he's a freak of nature, he's just undersized at 35. I mean, every fight that he's had there has been a challenge. We haven't seen the dominance like we've seen before, but that's the way that it's been. I just feel that, it certainly wouldn't hurt for him to start over. Just wonder if there's some other avenues because 35 is just tough. He's made it to the top. He's fought for the belt. He just looked completely outsized and just outgunned.
Really did.
And I wonder if part of it too, I was thinking about a guy that's worked so hard in a rule set where knees and that sort of stuff wasn't there. I'm sure after you've been clipped, you just go to what you're what's just been drilled into your head. And I wonder if part of that in that moment, he sort of forgot that, hey, in this position, I better watch for the knees, And while he's had some fights over there, and he's been in that rule set, but when you take those couple shots, I guarantee he grabbed onto him, was thinking I could hold him for a little bit and let me get my wits about me.
In the heat of the moment, what's your instinct? What's been drilled into you over and over again? Like, yes, if you're just having a hypothetical conversation about it, you're like, oh, yes, I knew. Because he even said, I still support knees to a grounded opponent.
Yeah.
I think, but what do you go to in the heat of the moment?
Yeah, and I just think I think there's a part of it that just caught him off guard, because for so much of his career, he hasn't had to worry about that shot. And maybe it would have been different if he came up in that system. But regardless, he just seemed so outsized, and we knew at some point that, and I say this with a grain of salt, we knew that at some point DJ's skill set would diminish against the competition that was coming up.
Sure.
Not that this by any means is diminished DJ, but at some point he's going to hit a threshold where his overall just athleticism can only carry him to a certain degree, and right now he's running into bigger, longer, lengthier guys at this division that are just I don't want to say too much, but I mean, like, on another day,
it's guys that watched you, they trained to beat you. You know what I mean? That literally have had this idea of beating you for years and years, and it's great. That's why that sustained dominance is so impressive. But eventually, your skills slip. Even if you just go from 100% to 98%, you know what I mean? And they're gunning for you, and it's just that little bit,
And everybody has their moments, and that could have been he had the perfect execution. Like, that knee was flawless. I mean, it was perfectly timed. He saw that opening, but it was so smooth, and it was just, there was no hesitation at all. And he had that slight little window where he could do that, and it was the perfect execution. It was absolutely fantastic. But like you said, these are the guys coming up. These are the guys that after. I mean, remember the first time when Anderson started losing? It was just like, what are we watching here? How is this even happening? Before he was untouchable.
Yep.
Then at some point, the competition catches up.
The world catches up to you.
But at this point, I mean, also too, I mean, like, not only is the competition catching up, you're fighting a bigger, longer, lengthier guy, younger, very, very agile. And it could have just been his day. Maybe if this runs back and you run this, 3 times, maybe it's 2 out of 3. Maybe, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, but on this particular night, but I think for DJ, I mean, DJ still is a phenomenal fighter.
Oh, yeah.
I just wonder, is he diminished, or is he damaged goods in the sense of, can you keep selling him like you did up to this point? No, you can't, because he made it to the top of that particular area and trying to go for the belt, lost the belt, or that lost the chance at the belt. Can you just even restart him back at some point? You're just like, it's hard. It just feels like the move back is more so because he was taken off the pedestal. Now it's like, where do you put him after you take him off the pedestal? If you don't put him back into another compartment or another division or something where you give another chance to shine, what can you do? I mean,
he even said, like, he was asked about, what about a rematch? He's like, well, it's not like it was a close fight or anything. So even he seemed aware of that fact that, like, dude, you're gonna have to do some work to get back to a rematch. Now, to his part, there was a cool scene where Mariah was like, hey, rematch, we can do that, no problem. But
I would say that too.
You're like, yeah, I'll knock you out again if you want.
If I was that dominant, I would be like, bro, you just let me know. I'll be there, okay?
Yep.
You just let me know.
We'll see. But you're right. I think you do have to kind of do something with him before you do that. I don't think you can put him back. I mean, you could put him back in and do it right away if you wanted to, but you're right. I don't think the narrative of it makes much sense. You know what I mean? I think you got to come back and, yeah, I mean, what if he comes back and has a ho-hum decision win over somebody else? You know what I mean? Like, so what? What is now this ho-hum decision win gets you? No, like, you got to come back and do something forceful, right?
Yeah. So, but you're saying with his existing deal, with the existing fights, he can fight those in other areas outside of just MMA. He can do like a kickboxing,
right? Because they do kickboxing, they do Muay Thai, in one. So yeah, one doesn't care.
He just owes them 6 fights or whatever.
But they don't care what kind. If you want to put you in a different discipline, we'll put you in a different discipline. It's still a fight. So
I've been like, can I just do grappling bouts?
I don't know if they do that. That would be pretty funny. Like, I'm just gonna do 6 3-minute grappling matches. How about that? In fact, we can just do them all in one night.
All one night.
We'll just do them all in
one big check. One really, really big check. But
so we'll see. Listen, ONE Championship for the rest of April is in prime time on Wednesday nights here in the United States on TNT. So if you missed the first one, check out the other ones. Listen, they do have some good fighters on the roster. There's no question about it, man. They have some really, really dangerous
They're studs
guys.
that nobody knows about.
That's
like,
it.
I looked on the roster. I'm like, who's this? Who's this? And then I watch them fight, and I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, like that dude's a monster.
Holy cow.
That dude's an absolute
Incredible.
monster.
They're incredible. I mean, there's certainly no fault. I think a lot of people, when they look at the guys that go from the UFC, they're like, oh, you know, they're not what they used to be, so they're going over here. There's still great fighters that are going over. To say that DJ and Alvarez aren't still absolute killers is crazy, but the level of the competition they immediately ran into was a huge eye-opener for me, at least, watching these guys. Even when Sage made his first one over there, and he didn't get his jaw broken in like his very first one or something. It was just like, it wasn't like Sage was just like destroying dudes in the UFC anyways, but he was still a stud. But it was a huge eye opener for me when I saw that, and I was just like, how did I not know that one was so, like, the roster is just, it's incredible. I mean, they're chock full of badasses that easily could be on the UFC roster doing damage. They just aren't there, you know. So it was amazing, man. Really, really cool. And this was just another instance where my eye was opened up to somebody that I had seen around the scene because of his, seeing him at where is it? American Top Team,
yeah.
And then just like, okay, well, look at that training partner of yours over there looks really, really good, you know. And then you see this, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a world champion.
Really good.
He's a world champion in another organization. Like, oh, that explains why the guy I'm not familiar with is over there going
Whipping
really
up on
well with
somebody.
everybody. So true, man. That's exactly what you get. One championship, a bunch of people that nobody's ever seen before that are really just as good as anybody in the UFC
As good as
roster.
anybody on the UFC roster. Really is.
So it's worth checking out. And overall, their pacing was good. It's small cards. They're only doing 5 or 6 fights. So worth checking out. More MMA for you.
Oh, and the ring card girls.
And there's always that to look at as well.
Yeah.
All right, listen, UFC on ABC2 is the fight card that we're covering here in Las Vegas this week. Just remember, special start time. In fact, it was 12 o'clock. Now we found out it's actually 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So our first fight is on Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Is it really?
Here in Las Vegas.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
8:30 a.m.
I need
Pacific
to call
time.
somebody. That's way too early.
Well, you'll remember this was supposed to be Marvin Vittori versus Darren Till, so it was kind of the quote-unquote the European Championship, so they wanted to do it in prime time over in Europe. Till had to duck out with a broken collarbone, which I believe he is now cleared with Dr. Vittori, who I think Marvin kind of came out
In
and
fact,
said,
it was not broken.
yeah, I think it kind of came out. Marvin had said he wasn't sure about the injury, and Darren's like, I'll send you my x-rays, you goofy son of a gun. I think
he put him out, didn't he?
He did. I think he did, yeah.
I thought I heard our boy Hot T saying that he released him after the fact, which meant that he had to be watching the MMA Junkie live stream.
I mean, it's an amazing.
Obviously.
You look at the 4K stream that you're putting out there. It's great of Media Day. Yeah, but all the discussion has really been around Martin Vittori versus Kevin Holland. Listen, Martin Vittori versus Darren Till was the higher profile booking, to say the least. Martin Vittori wanted to fight, that's for sure. Kevin Holland's last performance against Derek Brunson, leaves a lot of question marks around what he's going to be able to bring to the cage here. And I had mentioned last week that we'd heard Kevin Holland was trying to step in, and I thought, well, is the UFC even going to give him this opportunity? I imagine he's got to be on the phone talking with Dana. It sounds like he didn't talk with Dana. I'm sure his management company did and said, listen, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. But I guess I did want to say, man, when Kevin Holland came into Media Day this week, and we're just talking about, 3 weeks in between, 2 weeks in between, it was a completely different attitude. And obviously it needed to be. I think, I don't want to say that he was necessarily humbled by what happened, but I think he definitely saw all of the criticism that he took, and I think he at least gave it some credence. Like, he came in, his demeanor was completely different. He answered questions completely different. But it didn't seem to me, and maybe I'm wrong. You can, if anybody, I'd be interested to hear what other people think, and obviously I'm interested to hear what you think. But when he came in there and was more reserved and was more serious and was talking about it, he didn't necessarily strike me as a guy who, hey, I've learned my lesson, I'm never going to be like that again.
Right.
But not as a guy that's just like, I'm just being a smart ass by being quiet here. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I didn't feel like he was coming in being like, you know what, F you media people that talk trash about me. I'm not talking to you. You know,
Right.
I think he came in and he was like, hey, man, I'm just here to do my, I'm doing my thing. I'm focused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt earnest to me. It felt like it felt honest to me.
Yeah, completely. And if you were to take that and you juxtapose it over the Kevin that we saw immediately after fight night, where he's like, if you don't like me, F you, whatever, that was a much more emotional. This, to me, was a young man that thought about how he acted then and realized there's some merit in what some of these other people are saying, and I can't not hold myself to blame for some of what I did that night, you know. It seemed to me that he, I don't want to say that learned his lesson, but he, I think, realized that, okay, I had an opportunity that I probably could have dealt with a little bit better, so let me be a little bit smarter about doing this, because obviously he likes winning. He obviously likes the things associated with it. Even when I asked him a stupid question about what he thought about Venom, you know, he was like, you know, let me get some wins and maybe people pay attention to my opinion again, you know. So he understands that even when he talked about Dana and, you know.
Well, that's it. He said, I understand why Dana was mad.
I understand.
He's like, if other fans that weren't with me to begin with, don't care what you have to say. But Dana is a boss man.
Because that's a business.
I understand. Yeah, that's a business, and I understand why I didn't do good for business. Now we got to get back here and do good for business. I thought you nailed it right there. He said, I understand why Dana's mad, which I think we all do.
Yep.
I think that's a smart way to handle it.
Yeah, because I think if you would have asked him that same thing fight night, you're like, what do you think about what Dana's saying right now? I bet the emotional side of what he was going through at that time would have gave a different reaction.
Sure.
But the fact that some time had went on, the fact that they gave him the opportunity to hop right back in there, show his skills again, make some money, give him a chance to right the ship and get back at it again. Yeah. I think he realized, and he looked at it, and he's just making the right decision. So it actually kind of made me regret. I picked Vittori on this.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that Holland was in a different headspace.
I get it.
And I was just like, man, I don't know if I can go back down, because if he would have in my mind, if he would have stayed with the game plan and he would have stayed in the fight moments, he would have won that fight. When he hurt Derek, I thought if he'd stayed in the moment and not let himself get kind of carried away with some of his antics, that he would have got that win. But when I thought about this fight, I was like, I don't know where his head's at. I don't know what he's going to come in and what he's going to think. So my gut reaction was like, I'm going to go Vittori.
Yep.
But after hearing him and talking to him, I was like, gosh, darn it, he's saying all the right things.
I did the same thing, and I feel the same way. Now, I still think Vittori can be on a different level. I think Vittori, his intensity, his focus, where he's at. But I do think Kevin Holland has what it takes to win this fight if his head's in the right spot. And it sounded like his head's in the right spot.
I mean, Vittori is fighting better than ever right now. And I think after his last performance, I owe him the honor of putting my trust in that Vittori is going to show up.
Yep.
It was his last performance I thought was fantastic, and I love the emotion behind the win after. I was like, man, this is a guy that's fully vested in what's going on. But I know that there is some sort of issues going on between these two that hopefully, if I keep my pick the way it is, which I guess at this point it's too late to really change, because I don't want to be that asshole that says, hey, can we change the staff picks right before you publish them?
Matt, I appreciate that.
I just feel that if he doesn't let Kevin get in his head, that focused Marvin, I think with his power and just the way that he can go, has all the tools to win. But Kevin Holland, I'm still a huge believer in Kevin Holland and his skill set. And that's why I picked him over Brunson, because I think Kevin, when he's focused and with the way that his brain works to pull things out of the ether and pulls out moves, and you know, we all saw how he's able to finish Jacare from his back, which is just absolutely insane. I think he has every possibility to beat anybody in the division. I think he's if he can get his mind right and stay focused and be enjoying what he's doing, he's a future champion. Mm-hmm. You know, but if he fights himself and if he gets carried away and just gets brought out of the moment, he'll always be a contender and maybe won't get past that little hurdle. So it just, man, after seeing what he was saying yesterday, I was like, fuck, that is the Kevin that I would easily, if I didn't see that last performance, I would have no reason to doubt him, and I would have picked him. And maybe I'll say after the fact, I'm like, I should have changed my vote. You know, we all agreed that Kevin's coming in here different. But man, he seemed so focused before the last fight, and what showed up on fight night was completely out of left field that none of us knew what was going to come. We knew he was going to have fun, but what we saw that night was a complete. It was like his twin brother showed up.
Just didn't even care about fighting.
Yeah.
Just cared about having a stand-up comedy show.
Right, and it was so out of the blue that it's just hard. I need to see one with him fully focused again. I don't know if it was the matter that he was on the doorstep of what in my mind was a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
We had been watching him win and win and win. And I remember asking Dan a couple times, can this kid jump the line? Can this kid go? And he's like, no, he's got work to do. He did the work and he got there, but he was on the doorstep and just got out of his head, and maybe this is the kind of fight, since he's not right there in that doorstep, that we see the Kevin that we've been watching. Don't know.
It's one of those fights where I really do feel like after it happens on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, we're going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, obviously, which is either going to be Vittori wrecks him and we go, yeah, that guy, he got a little ahead of himself and we gave him too much credit for maybe a couple performances that weren't there, and Vittori wrecked him just like we thought he would. Or he's going to come in and he's going to wreck Vittori, and we're going to go, yeah, we knew that guy was that good. It just he had that one weird night against Derek Brunson, who, oh, by the way, it's kind of hard to look good against Derek Brunson. And, because that's the funny thing about the Derek Brunson fight, right? Like, if Holland loses that fight in the exact same manner, but he never says a word during the whole time, which obviously is not going to happen because that's not Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
But there's none of the talking to Habib. There's none of the talk, you know what I mean? Like, it's just him that can't get up, that's stuck on his back. It would still damage his reputation, but not the way it did. Where it just seemed like, are you even interested in trying to win this fight? Do you even care?
That's the part I think is because all of us were so vested in him and believed that he was doing, like, just fell in love with his fighting style.
Yep.
I think all of us were just sort of, as weirdly as it sounds, sort of hurt because it's like we believed so much in what was going on, and it's like, how are you going to do this? Why are you playing with my emotions? Like, I remember us in the press room. I mean, literally, I haven't been that frustrated for a fighter in so long, where I was just like, my gosh, why? If there was something I could say to this man, if there was a fancy button on a controller, what button sequence do I need to push to snap him out of this? It was just so hard to watch that. I know he's one of these guys that I think is destined for greatness. That night I felt like he showed his youth a little bit, and everybody's entitled to have some moment in life, and it's not even just in a sporting avenue. Who hasn't had some moment where you just literally drop the ball? Something just acts up, and and that could be any work in any aspect. It could be going out and say you want to have a good showing, I don't know, on a date or doing whatever, and you just out of your head and something goes wrong. Everybody's entitled that to happen, and this might have been his one moment where his some people phrase like his come to Jesus moment, where he was buying everything and everything was good, and he's like, my shit don't stink. I'm gonna go out there. I can do anything I want. The world is my oyster, and life just clapped back and said, no, son, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You still have to kind of work at it, and who knows? He could come back even bigger and better. I mean, everybody's entitled. I'm not gonna, certainly not something I'm gonna hold against him. But like I said, I guess for this fight,
this is the measuring stick right here.
This is the one. How do you come back from that? How do you come back? And it's not like they gave him an easy opponent to come back to. Like, you got another guy that's literally shooting up to the top, getting through guys and making this is his chance to make that sort of run to the title. If he gets through Holland, he puts his name back there at the top of, hey, all right, who's the next contender? Because then at that point you got to say that he's going to want contender fights, and it's going to be at that point because Kevin was on the doorstep of that right there. So Kevin hasn't fallen far. If he gets a big win over this and he gets back, I think it'll be easy enough for us all to sort of just say, okay, that was a fluke. That was just a weird moment. Let's just brush that under the rug and let's just stop talking about it or whatever. but it's going to take some to do that. I mean, I just wanted to go out and perform well, and just get back to the point of, him having fun, but performing at a level that we know that he's capable of. He's too good. He is way too good to throw it away by just letting the moment slip, by just having too much fun out there.
That's it. Be relaxed, be entertaining, but also care. Also care about winning. You know what I mean? So big one. I'm intrigued by this main event. I will say a fight that I think is flying severely under the radar, and really I think you could say just about everything on here is. I think the discussion has really been about the main event. But the co-main event between Arden Allen and Sadiq Yusuff, that is a big
that
one.
On this card?
That is a big one at 145 pounds. I mean, you're talking about two top-tier prospects that really want to prove that they're contenders in the division, and they're both young. Both of them, I think, said to us, "Hey, man, I was a little surprised this matchup. I thought they might wait, to do it a little further down the road."
Incredible records. I mean, both guys coming in only one loss each. I mean, like, you're right. This is one of those moments where one of those guys, like, again, shoots up and another guy slightly diminishes. But that's a hell of a matchup.
I love it. I took Sadiq Yusuff in this one, but Arden Allen is an absolute monster as well. And I love this fight. I think it's flying under the radar, and I love it. And the rest of the main card actually looks pretty damn entertaining to me. Sam Alvey, who has been in a struggle for results as of late, but
I just wish he would smile more.
I know, right?
He's always so depressed.
He feels so bad. Just want to give him a hug because he feels terrible. No, he was great. Sam Alvey was awesome as always. But he even said it. Look, he said, "Look, I'm fighting for my job, man." He's like, "It's 5 in a row. I got four losses and a draw." He's like, I have to, I have to win this fight or they're going to cut me. Meanwhile, you got Julian Marquez, who's coming out saying, who basically said, "I'm going to F Sam Alvey up." He was like, I know he's a nice guy and all that, but he said, I kind of think it's a little bit of a scam. He wants you to be buddy-buddy with him, so you don't want to beat him up. No, I'm coming out to just, drop bombs on him. So that could be a very, very exciting fight. Mackenzie Dern against the returning Nina Ansaroff, who is no longer Nina Ansaroff. She's now Nina Nunes.
Yes,
so you
look
see
at
that big change there. So her against Mackenzie Dern. Nina, 6.5 months since having a baby, and she's stepping into the cage at 115 pounds. Pretty amazing stuff. But Mackenzie Dern, man, she said, "Hey, listen, I've really changed. I've embraced who I can be and what I want to do with my career." And I love the fact that she openly admitted that, "Hey, man, maybe I didn't take this thing as seriously as I needed to take it in the beginning. And, losing and having a baby helped me realize, like, I need to take control of my career and do something with this while I have it." So I thought that was awesome to hear. So that's a big fight right there. And then Mike Perry versus Daniel Rodriguez. Platinum Papa, as I dubbed him. He seemed to like that one, by the way. I was like, "Hey, it's Platinum Papa." He's like, I like that. And he even used it a couple more times after that. So, he's in here. But, and he said, dude, by the way, and Abby Suman, of course, our videographer out in England, he kind of said the same thing to me when he was watching that I was thinking. He's like, "Man, Mike looks lean." And I thought the same thing. For Wednesday, he looked. Now, of course, he needs to look lean. He missed weight badly last time. But, he kind of went on a rant about carbs and sugars and all that.
That's what you could tell. He knew it. Because, I mean, like, when people take carbs out of their diet, they lose their damn mind. And I thought it was so awesome that he just focused on it. He was like, "I just want that chicken sandwich." You're over there eating your sandwich with the bread and the this and this. And he's like, "I haven't had any carbs." He's like, "I haven't had any carbs at all." Oh,
man. I think that looks great against Daniel Rodriguez. So, listen, this ABC card, I mean, we know what they're trying to do with an ABC card, right? They want action-packed fights. I think they did it. You got, I like the structure of this card. A meaningful middleweight fight, not obviously the one they wanted, but still very, very meaningful. And then, of course, the two prospects at featherweight. And then, Dern and Nunes has some title implications as well. Not necessarily next, but it definitely has some title implications. And then, as far as Alvey Marquez and Perry Rodriguez, I think those are just going to be bangers, and I think that's why they're there. So,
it should be fun.
Overall, man, I think it should be a fun card, and just a reminder again to everybody, it's early. So if you got your typical Saturday night routine down, make sure you set your TiVo or your DVR or whatever it is you do, because I guess most of it's on ESPN Plus, so you can watch it back on demand. But you don't want to miss out if you're trying to watch it live, then tune in and figure out it already passed you by already. So
it's gonna be interesting with it being so early, because I mean it's always fun when you usually have like two promotions doing a fight. On a Saturday, because then you get the fights in the morning, then you got fights later in the evening. It's just like I can just lounge around and watch fights all day. But it was kind of fun seeing even the fighters sort of talking about how they're looking forward to sort of fight and then still have their evening to kind of just
Yeah.
go and do whatever, which I'm sure is different. And I mean, I think anytime you do it over and over and over, something that sort of switched it up can add a little bit more excitement and just freshen it up for them a little bit.
I think the early fights. I mean, obviously, like we've talked about this at times, depending on where we are in the world. And Fight Island, some of those were like the timing was just weird.
Yeah, like early
yeah.
morning, like where you're talking about, like it's still dark out. That's
yeah,
not
that
fun.
messes
That's
you up.
not
These
good.
are going to be okay. I think even it starts off with Impa Kasanganay and Sasha Palatnikov. They'll be fighting at 8:30 a.m. local time. That's a little bit early for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think
It's a
as we
good fight.
settle in, it is a good one. I think what a lot of them said was, especially because we were interviewing main card fighters and featured prelim fighters, and they were like, "Look, I'm probably going to be fighting, around 11 or so. Like that's what time we normally spar anyway." I thought that was interesting. That's what time our normal gym sessions are. So
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said for that, and also just not having that. That nervous energy of waiting around all day, right, man? When you're fighting headliner on a pay-per-view, especially if you're like East Coast, you're not
true.
fighting until 1 a.m. in the morning or 12 or midnight, and you got that whole damn day to let go. So I think it will be a fun one on ABC. And by the way, should mention, we don't normally talk a lot about Bellator just because we end up covering UFC, and of course Bellator is on Fridays. But Bellator does have a card this weekend as well. Bader versus Machida 2, Grand Prix quarterfinal matchup. Of course, former 2-division Bellator champion Ryan Bader, who of course is the heavyweight champ right now, against former UFC champ Lyoto Machida. That's a very good fight, and it's a Grand Prix quarterfinal bout. Obviously, that Grand Prix is pretty stacked. Liz Carmouche versus Vanessa Porto, actually a very good women's fight there as well. Adam Boric versus Jeremy Kennedy. That's a fantastic fight
really
there
good.
as well. Kat Zingano is back as well. And really, you go all the way down, and even the prelims are getting deeper for Bellator these days because they're no longer using, kind of the local ticket seller. Yeah, now you've actually got rostered fighters on there. So another good card. This month is just going to be crazy. PFL is coming back as well. I keep saying we need to get Nolan King on. We do need to get Nolan King. He's the mayor of the fight sphere, basically. He goes to all the Bellator events, so we need to get him on to preview one of these. But I'm not going to lie, I was just happy to be able to make it through this episode, and I didn't even bring any audio. Or I actually had 2 interviews scheduled today, and I canceled them because I was like, I can't.
So I got to get to the road show. Sorry, y'all.
I was like, I'm sorry, I've got beverages to drink. No, I had like video interviews planned, but like I couldn't even keep my eye open. I'm sniffling and I can't keep my eye open. I was like, I'm not going on video like this. So I had some interviews planned that I was going to share, but we'll move to. I can't even laugh that hard because it's hurting my throat. Listen, we got weigh-ins in the morning. I'm not going to keep talking because I know the sniffling and coughing is probably getting on your nerves. So I'm just proud I made it through. Historic 6-year anniversary of the MMA Roadshow, episode number 315, the birthday in the house, March 15th. So, good things all the way around. But now I'm going to go take some medicine and try to get some sleep. Weigh-ins, if you're a weigh-in kind of person, they are 1 hour earlier than normal because they're early fights. They're doing earlier weigh-ins too. And I'm just hoping I get to feel somewhat better in the next 48 hours. For everybody that supports us over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow, we really, really appreciate it. Shout out again to Zach and Thomas for hooking us up with the beverage this week. And because I feel like crap, I really wasn't able to consume that many of the beverages. So they will continue to be extended out into next week.
I could help.
Or maybe not. Or we'll see how the Casa de Cold Coffee staff has handled the beverages over here between now and next week.
There's a whole lot of time from now to then.
There's a whole lot. So in the meantime, we'll say everybody, thanks for listening.